is up, everyone? Welcome to Shaping Success. I'm your host, Wes Tankersley. This is going to be a little bonus episode here. As we worked through last week, we had a little bit of technical difficulty with my live show. I know that a lot of you were going to tune in for that interview I did with Andrew F. Carter, which was actually a very good conversation that I had with him, but ended up having to punt on the way that it worked. Our producer, TVPBN's server went down, and so we weren't able to do a live show. And so I tried to do something that I haven't done before and record a Zoom call. When you do it on your own, it's kind of tough because if you haven't done a whole lot of those Zoom calls on your own, you don't really know what's going on with sound and audio and things like that. And a lot of times with a live show, I'm able to get feedback from the producer telling me, hey, your mic's too loud. Hey, your headphones aren't whatever, So there's all those things that they can tell you that they're doing and they're not able to do. For those of you who don't know, I do the live show. The interviews are a live show for the most part. My producer's getting pretty busy, so there's times where I'm going to have to go ahead and do it on my own, which has been just a learning curve. I do all the bonus coverages on my own as well. The audio for the interview with Andrew wasn't very good. We're going to have to try and do that again. I've got 2 interviews coming up in a row where I don't have time to reschedule him right now, but I'm going to get that taken care of. I want to interview him on the live show because I think that he deserves that. It was a very good interview that I had with him, and he's got a lot of good things to come from. And sharing the successes of people who struggled or been through a lot is what this show is about. If you are listening to this on iTunes, please like, share, rate, and review it. We're getting close to 2,000 downloads. Help me share the message. If you can, take a screenshot of the podcast right there where you're watching it and post it on your social media. I'll give you a shout out on mine. Let's start here with a little quote. So I'm going to talk about at the end a few of the podcasters that I've listened to who have kind of helped me get through what I'm doing and this journey that I'm on. And Lewis Howes is one of them. And if you haven't listened to him, you should check it out. School of Greatness is a podcast that he's just hit over 1,000 episodes. The guy's been podcasting for a very long time and just hit over 1,000 episodes. That's a great success. Lewis Howes said, fill your mind with good and surround yourself with people who lift you up. It's been since January that I started this podcast. I started out with a different reason of why I was going to do it. But what happened was through the first 4 or 5 episodes, I realized that what I was doing was a little bit different than what my mission was. I started it kind of for selfish reasons in order to get myself a little bit more business in my current job and realized that I was doing something different than that. I was helping people realize that success is different. And so with that, it went from one podcast to another. I changed it. I had a co-host. I was going in a different direction. And so you'll see the growth if you go back and listen to previous episodes, which I challenge you to do, because if you go back and you listen to the second episode versus like the most current one, you'll realize that it's a completely different podcast than what it started out as. But what it was I was starting it to help people realize that success is different for every individual. You have the choice of what your success is, and you create that on your own. You don't have to do what everyone else says. You can do what you want. You can figure out that. And when you are happy and when you are satisfied with what you're doing, that's what success is. And a lot of people will realize that they'll never be satisfied with what they're doing. They'll never want to stop what they're doing. They'll always be trying to perfect it. That's the big thing for me right now is that with this, I'm always trying to perfect my sound. I'm trying to perfect the way that I edit things. I'm trying to perfect the content that I bring you guys. I'm trying to perfect my life in general because I'm trying to make myself better. But in that, I'm trying to be authentic. I'm trying to help you understand that people struggle. People have issues as well, and they work on those things. So there's a lot of life lessons in here that are for me. And if I can help one person get through something that they're doing, that's the whole process. That's the whole reason why I do this. So hopefully I've reached someone. Hopefully I've helped someone. I know that I've helped myself, and that's really where it starts. I know that I've heard other people give me great feedback and thank me for some of the messages that I've given. That's kind of the switch for me. I've learned a lot. It's been almost a year and a half now. I quit my job as a teacher. So for those of you who have listened before, you know that I worked at Les Schwab for 11 years. I got hurt, and then I went back to college and I got 2 degrees, and I taught PE for 3 years. 1 year I taught out of class because I was trying to get into a school that I really wanted to teach in because I wanted to be a high school teacher. And it's funny because I see these kids that I started teaching out at a middle school in Marsing, Idaho. They're graduating. This is the end of their secondary education, right? So they're going to have to go into post-secondary, but it's great because I'm seeing all these kids that are successful. They were 7th graders when I started teaching. And it's exciting to see that and to run into them and hear them talk about how I helped them and changed their life and their output and things like that. And you think, well, he's just a physical education teacher. Well, I coached him too. And I also was there as a person for them, someone that they looked up to, and maybe they didn't have someone to help them get there. So it was great. It's great to see that. It's something that is very exciting. Teaching, I realized, just wasn't for me, though. I realized that the kids that were there that were wanting to be motivated and wanting to be moved were few and far between. There's a lot of parents who think that their kids should not have to work for anything anymore and they should get good grades. When I was growing up in high school, it was you either work for it or you don't get that grade. And I wasn't a very good student. I graduated high school with a 3.0 GPA, but I realized that I didn't work very hard and that was up to me. And my parents set that in my mind. You get what you put into it. If you don't put a lot into it, you're not going to get it. Something else that they told me, though, was that I needed to go to college. I went to college a little bit later. I went at first, too, and I failed because I wasn't ready. But then I went again. I had really good grades and got 2 degrees. I have a master's degree and I have a bachelor's. And I wouldn't change the fact that I went to college, but I don't necessarily believe anymore that that is something that is necessary to be successful. I think that you can get what you want by creating that success, by working for it. You can learn in different ways and people learn in different ways. That's what a lot of times I was shown when teaching students. It's one of those things where I was in college and I can be honest with you and tell you that I read maybe one book, but that was combined with all the books that I had to buy. You spend thousands and thousands of dollars on books and you can get through college without reading them. All you're doing is searching for information to put in a box for a test to check the box. And that's all we did. And that's what college was for me. And I did pretty good at checking that box, but realized that things are a little bit harder than that in life. And so you don't really learn those life lessons through reading those books that they give you to teach you how to read those books. One of the things that I have found, though, is that reading other books, which is still hard because it's pretty tough. I listen to a lot of them on Audible because I don't have the patience to sit down and straight just read a book. And I've read probably about 9 books in the last year, which before that I probably read 1 book in the last 10 years, and mostly autobiographies about sports people that I like listening to. I think that you can find a better way, but it's different for everyone. Yeah, you can't go be a doctor without getting an education. And if you want to be a doctor or someone who's going to help people in that, you have to go get that education. I don't necessarily think that, that's for me, but the choice is yours. And that's the big thing. And when you figure that out, it's life-changing. When you realize that you're able to make that decision on your own and figure out what your success is, it's life-changing. It's freeing. And that's kind of where that switch came for me. I realized that I wasn't going to be teaching, but that I could actually still teach and not have to be in a classroom. I'm helping people learn how to get through things that like I am getting through them. I'm helping people to realize that they can find success on their own. Do I struggle? Yeah, mindset is something that I've always worked on, that I've always tried to create a successful mindset. Now, I've had a very strong will and I've worked really hard to get things done. And I know that you can really work through things and make things happen on your own. But hard work isn't the only thing that's going to make it happen. You're going to have to be willing to look at it in a positive light. And this is what has helped me, is the fact that I used to be the person who looked at things in a negative way. And when things didn't happen, I was okay because I didn't want to be disappointed when it didn't happen. So I wasn't disappointed because I pre-disappointed myself, right? I made it bad from the get-go. And now I've changed the way that I look at it. And I've thought about it and I've tried to figure out a way to make everything that's negative in my life become positive. And it's a struggle. It's not easy. The difference is that I feel far better when I think of it in a positive light than I do in a negative light. Am I perfect? Nope, I'm not. I struggle every single day. Things happen. You can listen to my last episode and you hear, someone making an attack on my character, which really, really bothered me. There's people who are there for me. And that's why that Lewis Howes quote makes a ton of sense. Surround yourself with people who lift you up, because there's people who have been through the same thing, who are there to struggle through the whole situation with you. They're not the people who sit there and dog you and talk bad about you to make you feel worse about the situation. They're the people there that are there to support you. And that comes from a lot of places. Best support I ever had is my wife. And I'm glad that I met her. I love her greatly. And I'm glad that she's here for me because it was the best thing that ever did happen to me. Along those lines, I surround myself with some really good friends that I've had for a very long time. And then I've also met some really great people recently. And you find that you can decipher when you have this mindset, the negative from the positive. There's people who will sit there and they'll brag about being what they are. But when you realize it and you look and you really dissect the situation, you're going to realize that they're not what they're talking about. A lot of people will hate. A lot of people will say things to you that they're afraid themselves, because they'll sit there and they'll talk about how, oh, so-and-so's doing this and so-and-so's doing that. Just like going off about how they're going to fail, they're not going to succeed, it's not the right thing, whatever. They're few and far between. The problem is that they're behind you. They're the ones who are afraid to do what you're doing. They're afraid to put themselves out there in anything that they do. I was that guy. I've been that guy. I am that guy. There is fear. There is always fear of failure. There's fear of success. There is fear that gets to you. But what you have to do is you got to learn to work through that. Once you figure out that nothing's going to happen right off the bat, that you have to work for it, that setting goals and achieving them is a very successful thing, then you're going to be on the right path. I had a couple small victories this week that I'm pretty excited about myself. I've talked about it before, but I had bariatric surgery probably about almost 3 years ago. And I've kept the weight off for the most part, but I've struggled with this new job that I have because it's a traveling sales job. So I drive around and I meet up with customers and I show them my products and I sell them to them. That's what I do all day. There's not a whole lot of time for me to be physical. Well, when you're a PE teacher, there was times where I was playing basketball that was kids. I'm walking a lot. You're getting up, you're moving and things like that. It's a very active job and I'm not anymore. So I've put on some weight and it's been tough. And trying to reach those small goals and trying to create some habits that are good is kind of the thing. And I've kind of lost my way in the last year and I'm trying to get right back on the right path. And so one of the things that I started was it's been 8 days actually. I posted yesterday on TikTok that it was 7, but it's actually been 8. I've been walking for at least 30 minutes every day. Small victory. And that's what it is for me. It's a small victory because I haven't done anything for a while. Probably since December, since this whole COVID thing hit, I haven't done a whole lot. I was able to close every single ring on my watch every day for 8 days so far. And it's going to be more than that because the goal now is to do it for a month. And then I'm going to start adding in small things. So I actually wrecked my bike yesterday trying to show off to my 7-year-old and pop a wheelie and just landed really great. Scraped my knee, hurt my ankle with the pedals. It's a little sore because that's what happened. And everything is sore. But today I'm going to go out and walk anyway. Everything is, it's still a goal. It's still going to happen. If I couldn't physically do it, it'd be one thing, but I can. I'm going to go out and walk. That's what I'm going to do. Don't let those things set you back and help and allow them to hinder what you're doing. Now, I've done it before and it isn't easy. So that's the thing. It's like we get to a certain point and then we're just like, oh, it's not worth it. You have to find something that makes it worth it for you. That's about all I have for today. I want to talk to you a little bit before we go, though, about some podcasts that I listen to. If you want a little bit of positivity, if you want some good information, there's some great people that have inspired me. These are people that I try and surround myself with. Like I said, I surround myself with like-minded people. A while back, I was introduced to this group of podcasters and it kind of fell apart. There's certain egos and things like that get in the way of people wanting to have more power and decide what's positive and what's negative and things like that. And it didn't fit my personality. It was making me upset. It was making me feel more negative about things than it was positive. But I found some great people in there. So I'm going to talk about those people a little bit. And then I'm actually going to talk about the first couple podcasts that I lived that helped me change my mindset a little bit. So if you haven't heard of Gary Vee, you need to check out Gary Vee Audio Experience. It's a great podcast. He says the same things over and over again. And what the thing is, though, is he believes in them. And you can tell. And he's successful. And he is a person who has dug himself out of the bottom and created a very big empire. Check out that. Through Gary Vee, I read a book called Crushing It. He's got a bunch of books, but I read his book, Crushing It, and I started following all these people that he talks about in these books because he's a social media marketer, and he breaks down all these people. And I started listening to a podcast from Lewis Howes, which is the beginning of the quote here, called The School of Greatness. Such a great inspirational podcast. He has guests on there every single day, from Kobe Bryant to Jim Quick to Tony Robbins. Tons of different inspirational people talking about how what greatness is to them and how it's defined that way. Such a great podcast. And then I've met some people on another level. I have this group of great people that I talk to on a daily basis that help me to get through this podcasting, who have helped me create a better sound, who have created me. And they're just good people. They're my friends. Never even met them. We live quite a bit away, but we talk every single day. Brian Sells See Through It podcast. You should check it out. It is on my He's one of my guests. Actually, all these people are my guests that I've had because they inspire me to be better. Brian sells See Through It podcast, a great inspirational podcast, similar to mine, talking about daily things and seeing through the BS, making your own choices. Jay Finning, Hard Parking podcast. It's a non-car podcast. So great podcast to listen to. Jay's got some great things talking about. He also interviews great guests. He's got a big interview coming up. Check out Hard Parking podcast if you can. Zach Johnson, Limitless Production podcast. Zach is in Germany, and he is a pro baseball player over in Germany. Him and I connected right away because we both talk about the same things. And very exciting to listen to him interview inspirational people as well. Totally very helpful. And then another guest that I had, Jason B. Godoy, Wake Up with Wonder, and he talks about the art of wondering and creating that wonder in life. Very inspirational as well. Has some great things. He's been very supportive of me and sent me things about journaling and things like that. I love listening to all of those podcasts. If you need any help with being positive, if you need anything to listen to, those are great ones. I think you should check them out. I wouldn't tell you about them if I didn't think so. Anyway, that's it. I'm glad that you've listened. If you're tuning in again, please like, share, and review. Also, again, take a screenshot. Help me to grow this thing because it's inspiring me to inspire other people. Have a great day. Until the next time, I want to challenge you to try and find the shape of your success.